So, I would like to sing one more number. Just kidding. I'm just going to talk to myself. And I'm wondering now, what will that energy translate me into? That energy was translated into me playing the role of a mental patient, but now that I'm out of that role right now, at least, what will this energy be able to do without that chemical translation? That energy translating itself into a voice that wants to be outside of that. And now one is outside of that. So what will that energy be able to create now that it's not utilizing that energy to move out of a life that was created for me by all the systems in the world? So that energy had a chemical barrier, and now it doesn't. I remember meeting this man who was very enlightened, seemingly, and later when I left, he asked, "Have you started singing yet?" by email. And I always wondered what that meant. And this was 6 years ago, before I was ever labeled. And we once had this experience where we stared into each other's eyes for like 5 minutes without blinking, and I don't know how long it was. And he said to me, "I wonder if you can see what I can see." And I didn't ask him what he meant, but it just seemed kind of mysterious. Maybe I just realized what that answer is. It's see how he sees. And I actually remember observing this individual 6 years ago and just wondering how he came up with the things that he would say, because he would understand a lot about nature and talk about it in ways, and I'd be like, how did you know that? I wasn't curious about, oh, that's a fact, that's not a fact, okay, I'm going to remember what you said and believe it as knowledge. It was more, how are you seeing this? How do you see? And he mentioned something about sitting for a long time in nature, and it starts to tell you, it starts to talk to you. Not literally talking plants with mouths and eyes like in some kind of Pixar creation, but that subtle impression, that energy, creates an understanding inside the brain. And that's the same thing I've been talking about with myself this year, and I'm realizing now that I don't know if he passed on that seeing by that looking into each other's eyes, because I've already talked about how the light of one's eyes can affect another, and that intense stare with this really intense person, intense in the way they could really see things and understand, and speak from that understanding, not speak from, oh, I was born here and I went to this school and blah blah, falling asleep. We're all tired of hearing that stuff. It's not really interesting. And then we have to go to TV for entertainment. So anyways, getting back to how he said, I wonder if you can see what I can see. And I realize now I can, and I have. But when I was originally going to say that, I was thinking maybe he saw my original dream of life to be a singer when I was a child, because that was sort of my dream. But I had a terrible voice, and I couldn't sing in tune, and I couldn't hear, and I didn't know the words, so I don't know where that was in me, that thought that that was possible. So what I'm saying is, if I even get back to my dream when I was a kid, maybe there's something there. And not necessarily to be a singer for other people, but I've been talking to myself for myself to move myself through this, and maybe singing for myself, just for myself, might create more ability to sing, but it might also give another dimension to the voice. Instead of just talking in words all the time to talk in words, but it's activating this other creative part by singing. It's kind of a creative act. And last night in a dream, I just remember this little bit of a dream where somebody was probably teaching me how to sing, and they said, when you sing, you hold your breath at the end, you don't while you're finishing talking. And I could see this flash of this person so clear in front of me telling me this, and And it seemed kind of like this quantum holographic text message in my brain from the universe in a dream. And so it was interesting that that happened, because I wanted to talk about this whole singing thing. And I did actually sing in one of my videos, just to put it in there. I don't know why, but maybe I'll get better, but just for myself. Not to be a singer, but just to sing. And just to explore these different possibilities. Like, I don't even know what's possible with this energy. Anything could be possible. Maybe these crazy ideas that I had in that first state of map consciousness, some of them could possibly come true, or something similar, because in that energetic state, one sees that anything is possible. But then not everything is possible. So it's a matter of exploring this multidimensionality of this energy to unfold what one is meant to create. And I can even ask for that gift from the universe. I can ask, hey, universe, if that energy wants to move through me in a way that might make me sing, go for it. And I actually remember after performing stand-up comedy, I felt like I can do it. My mind went to the next thing that would be cool to do is sing on stage in front of people, because that's even scarier and I can't even really sing. So just putting that out there, just putting things out there. So can I just sing to myself, for myself, just like I talk to myself, for myself, to move myself out of the mental illness paradigm? Can I move into the multidimensional intelligence paradigm and just work on these different intelligences that we have innately as humans? Most people have the possibility to sing, but we don't necessarily make that into an actuality. So what will this energy move from possibility to actuality? And I've talked about seeing possibilities and everything. It's nice to see possibilities, but if one is able to be in this seeing possibilities and being with possibilities state long enough, can one actually learn to actualize those possibilities? Not actualize myself, but actually actualize possibilities as a creation. And I wonder, and saying the multi-dimensional intelligence towards us or something, it's actually all these dimensions that we have access to as human beings, but through our education and our conditioning, we're funneled into these very mediocre lives, and we get disconnected from our potentialities. So it's just actually connecting with something that's already innate within us, but has been sort of calcified into a life of this narrow band. And that narrow band blinds us to possibility, so we're looking for something other because we can't see possibility and actually create that. So maybe some of us can see some possibilities, but it's more, I guess, now about creating that, because I've talked about possibilities, and I don't want to just keep talking about possibilities. I want to move into some kind of creation of a possibility. And I've seen the possibility of being off meds and moved into that. So now what's possible after that? It makes other energies possible. I don't want to say things. It makes other creations possible. So I'm not sure, but to me it feels like it's not really something spiritual. It's just giving us our humanity back. Children, they congeal into this calcified band of a reality tunnel, and then they're looking for something spiritual. Really, we're just looking for the rest of our humanity. Where did it go? It got pruned out of our brain through all this education for our own good to get cog in the machine jobs. And right now we're just living in the mental realm. And so we call everything else spiritual, but it could actually be something that doesn't just feel spiritual. It could be a creative life that is embodied without having the time to even say, wow, that felt spiritual. It's just life. It's just creation. And for me, this self-dialogue is a process of creating myself. And it's probably not the only process, but it seems to be the process that is processing these processes. So can I just be as this energy and not talk about it as how it was transformed into mental illness by the systems of the world? And I could just go talk about this with people, but the world isn't really ready for this energy. And I haven't created myself as ready for this energy, and I have to create that readiness for the energy by creating. Just like we have to see in order to keep seeing and grow the seeing structures in our brain, we have to create in order to keep creating. We're so focused on planning and goals and step 1, step 2, step 3 that we never take a step. And then we live a life stepping in our own footsteps, circulating the same routine. It's the way we walk. And I heard the phrase, vote with your feet, and we've all bought into this collective, this world that we all share, sort of, and we're voting with our feet by staying in it. And we never turn our feet to see what's over there. And so this next part too is about transforming myself back into that original energy. And it's getting a little dark, so I'll turn on the light. I realize that I can sometimes just talk to myself with the light off because it's a little bit bright. So this is an important point. Transforming myself back into that original energy, the energy that was happening before I was ever labeled. And it's me creating myself as transforming myself back into that original energy, because nobody else is going to do it for me. Nobody else can do that for me. I can only do that for myself. And I can only create that for myself. If I don't create that for myself, I just remain in the system. I just remain walking in circles in the system and living a life within the limitations of that system. And people can still live really good lives within that, for sure. People can. But what I'm saying is there's an energy that, when unimpeded, creates something completely different beyond anything a system can ever help someone recover towards. And I don't know if that's true. I haven't really done it. I'm just talking about it. But talking about it is helping to create the doing. The system that's designed to help me would profit from me, from all the people trained to impose that and the medications and everything. Instead of me being a prophet of my own life, I must prophesize my own life into existence. Otherwise, I'm just going to be a cog in the machinery of someone else's financial profit. And because we don't live a life of understanding and creating, we end up in other people's systems that will create profits for them. Well, I want to create profits. I want to be a prophet of my own life. So self-dialogue is partially prophecy. If I go back to harvesting my mania, I was writing lyrics. So maybe there's something there. I don't know. But if I just think, oh, I was writing lyrics, oh, that's nice, I'm going to go sit and watch TV. Well, I'm never going to explore that energy that was sort of a seed that was being planted of a potential. And that energy and that download of that blueprint plants potential seeds in the brain that perhaps were already there. Perhaps it just uncovers some of the stuff that's actually impeding seeing those potentials. If we don't see those potentials and create action, the potential of action, then we actually end up acting in other people's potentials, what they've designed to bring people into. I thought I was going to write lyrics for like Lauryn Hill and we were going to be friends. That could sound really, really delusional for sure, but at the same time, and I would listen to her music and it felt like I was right there and I could understand exactly what she was saying. It was like I was really in touch with that. And I was so in contact, I could feel what she was saying, just like it was me. There was no separation, but really what I saw from that when I wrote that down today was the me that I'm not separate from there is that creative energy that we are. So when I feel, oh, I could be like Lauryn Hill or I could write lyrics for her, it's just being really in touch with that creative movement that really can create anything. Some people are in touch with that. So I could feel that creation, and I could feel her creation and how it was moving my creation. So it could be when people go into these states of consciousness and they feel like, I'm Picasso, or I wrote this book. It's really saying, I feel like a creator. Not the creator, I'm not talking about God, but the creative potential we have as human beings to create something really new. And so when we're first getting in touch with that, and then we get in touch with something else somebody else has created, well, real creations actually come from just this creative process, and they're selfless. They're not really dependent on an ego. So when the ego is suspended, one can actually feel like, oh, I created this. When really we're one with that creative process that could create that, but didn't, but could create something else. So it's not necessarily about, oh, I created that. It's, wow, this person's in alignment with creation, with that creative process. What is it that you could create? So that could also happen because we're so warped away from our creativity that we had when we were a child, that if we were always in touch with that beautiful creation, we probably would have just created that thing that we were meant to create. But we're so far away from it that we don't even know what it is that we wanted to create or were meant to create. So it's just this split off the original trajectory. And since we're so far away, it's more difficult to actually connect with that which we wanted to create when we've spent so much time moving away from it. So in my case, when I was a kid and I wanted to be a singer, but all these elements got in the way and I never did. But if I was able to get in alignment with that creation, then maybe I would be a really good singer right now. And maybe not, I don't know. I'm just saying, I'm giving that example. So then this actually I'm seeing now, this applies to what I said. And then when I get in that creative place, in my first experience in map consciousness, I'm feeling like I'm going to write lyrics for Lauryn Hill and understand what everyone's saying, and this is creative, and I can create words like this too. When if I would have been in alignment with that my whole life, maybe that would have actually been a reality, or more of a reality. Maybe not that exact writing for Lauryn Hill thing. And I could have gone a step further and said, hey, I wrote Lauryn Hill's lyrics. I never thought that, but people do connect with feeling like they created something that they didn't. And maybe it's just because they didn't create. And then they get in connection with feeling like they created, so they have to latch onto something that makes sense of how creative they feel. Like if I feel so creative, like so much in alignment with that, but I spent 30 years not in alignment with that, but I feel that, I'm just going to have to pick out something somebody else did and feel like I created that, because I'm feeling that energetically like I could have created that. And maybe if I was in contact with that originally, I could have created that or something similar, but we're not creating. So to me, I'm seeing just in talking about this and unfolding it that we're missing our creation, and then we're latching onto others' creation when we actually reconnect with that creative state. So it's important to create, not just to say, oh, I created that. That's going a little bit too far. But one could also say that in that creative state is impersonal. So it could be that we could have created that, and we're all one, so it could feel like we created that because we're all one. Or tapping into the consciousness that did create that. So there's a lot of different ways to unfold that. A lot. But the one that I sort of like right now is getting in touch with one's original creation, one's original trajectory, because that goes along with a lot of the things that I've been talking with to myself, and that's something that's actually actionable. So if I just say, oh yeah, I connected with a state of consciousness that was really creative, so I sort of latched on to the possibility that I created this book that has somebody else's name on it, because I feel that creative. I feel that creative and that creative energy that could have created that book. So, but that doesn't really have any actionable thing except for realizing my hand didn't even write that book. So to feel like getting back in alignment with the original trajectory, and as a harvest of one's mania, but when I really think about it, it's also harvesting one's original dream as a child. And there's some interplay there. And it's about the adjacent light body and the original trajectory. So can I step into my original trajectory that was moved away from through fear? I remember when I was really young and I was going to audition for this choir, and my mom was going to take me to the audition, and I was supposed to sing "Oh Canada." And I remember my fear, and the reason I didn't do it was that I didn't know the words to the song. I didn't even know to ask, what are the words to the song? Like, I kind of knew the tune, but I didn't know the words. And even now, I can't really remember words to songs, and I was just talking about that. I don't sing as much because I can't remember the words, even if I've heard the song a lot of times. But I actually see that this faculty in my brain of not being able to remember words is actually maybe part of the reason why I'm able to connect with these other words, because I can't remember all these words that I would associate with the ego structure. But anyways, I'm just saying that I didn't know the words. I was too afraid to ask. There was no Google. There was nothing. I was probably 5 years old, and I was too afraid to ask my mom to help me. And I remember just saying to my mom last minute and being so afraid, like, no, I can't go. I don't want to go. And I remember thinking about it for quite a long time, like days or weeks, and just being so afraid and being like, I can't go. And I never said I can't go. I don't know the words. I just said, no, I can't do it. So I was afraid to ask. I was afraid to ask for help. I was afraid to admit I didn't know the words. And I don't even think I felt like, oh, I don't know the words, I need to learn them. I felt like I just don't know the words and I should know the words. And so right now I realize in my life I don't know the words, and then the words just arise. I don't know the words, and that's a good thing. But in terms of learning to sing songs, it's actually good to know the words. So there's areas in life where it's good to know the words, and areas in life where it's best to just drop the words and let the words arise. But this words arising process could actually help if I eventually decide to create my own songs, because they'll just be there out of nowhere. So in that other state, in map consciousness, I feel like I need to become my artist self. I've connected with that, especially when I was in the psych ward in April of last year. I did a lot of writing, and I was like, I need to become my artist self. And I realize now today that just meant I need to create myself. I need to be the artist of myself, not necessarily my artist self. I don't even know what that looks like. So be the artist of myself. And most of us sing along to other people's songs. We don't realize we can create our own. And that's symbolic of more than just singing along to tunes, but we're all moving along, singing along to the whole song of society that's been collectively co-created, and we're not actually creating our own life. So I thought of a hashtag, create your life, not live your life or be happy, create your life. If you're just living your life, you're living your life in someone else's creation. And I was given the energetic blueprint in my first immersion into magic, and I need to learn the rules of this magic. And maybe I already have a lot, to the point where that has become transparent to me. I don't even see it. It's just the way the brain operates. Just like we don't have to see the mechanism of our breathing in order to breathe. And maybe we don't have to see the mechanism of our seeing in order to see. But we do need to see the mechanism that blinds us. And as we see that, it falls away and we can see more. And so seeing the blindness creates more seeing and makes that seeing transparent. And it makes the brain transparent because it's not blocked by this blindness. And we must learn the rules of this magic when it meets the human nervous system for real, unimpeded by the disenchantment of all this thought that we've been given. And we're so deluded by it, we think they're my thoughts, and then we want to protect these thoughts and ideas. And when we want to protect these thoughts and ideas that we didn't even think of ourselves, that we think are ourself, we can't see anything and create anything new. And we can't have our own perceptions. And the interesting thing, just as the thoughts aren't our own, the perceptions aren't our own. So when we perceive something, there is a subtle ripple effect that will start to allow other people to see more without actually even doing anything. Just seeing for oneself starts to create more seeing for oneself in others without even sharing a process of seeing for oneself, like self-dialogue. If we are nervous, we have fears in our nerves and we can't meet the universe. The universe isn't nervous. The universe wants to meet us. It's not about us meeting the universe. The universe wants to meet us. But it can't when we want something in particular. When we're wanting this or we're wanting that, we're craving this and we're craving that. If we're craving this, we can't have all of it, which is right there. So yeah, that was 3 long videos. My first day of making videos with very little reference to that old system and moving into creating something new in the nervous system. Not about creating a new system, but creating the nervous system anew, the brain anew by speaking new. And I really don't know. One thing I forgot to talk about was more about altruism. I started my altruism experiment, which is very small. I put a quarter on the ground and I'm hoping someone will find it and feel lucky. And I checked and it's still there, so nobody feels lucky yet, but it's creating a bit of a game. And I remember when I was in that state that first time, I would leave money on people's car door handles and put it on the ground because I felt like people find it and feel like it's their lucky day. And I wanted people to feel good and maybe notice something outside of themselves. If we notice a quarter on the ground, we're actually looking somewhat. Maybe it just means we're looking for money. I don't know. Whatever. It's kind of a fun game.